Good evening and welcome. Before we begin the program, we're going to ask everyone to please rise for the presentation of our flag. The flag is being presented tonight by Vernay Martin, retired in 2001 after serving 22 years in the Army with the rank of Sergeant First Class. Vernay joined the U.S. Army in 1979, met and exceeded all required leadership positions during her career. Presently, she is the director of Vets Chat and Chew and a member of the National Association of Military Black Women with a chapter in the Borough of Brooklyn, among other organizations. She's also here tonight with her lovely wife, Pat. Please give a round of applause to Vernay Martin. And singing our national anthem, please remain standing. Phil Ordonez of the Empire City Men's Chorus and Open Hydrant Theater Company in the Bronx is proud to sing the national anthem today for the second year in a row. Please welcome Phil Ordonez.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
We'd like to thank Phil, and we'd also like to especially thank Vernay for her years of service to this country. Let's give them both another round of applause. Introduce you. My name is Mickey Heller. I'm co-chair of Brooklyn Pride. I'd now like to have the proud privilege of introducing my co-chair, Jamie Farnham.
Thank you, Mickey. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so excited to be kicking off Brooklyn Pride Week officially here at Borough Hall this evening. Our theme this year is Don't Hide Your Pride. In this current political climate, just being out can be an act of resistance for many folks. And for many, it is still not safe to live their fullest truths. I think there are a lot of LGBTQIA+ folks, especially young folks, who need to hear a message of love and acceptance over a noisy minority preaching hate and fear right now. The honorees tonight all exemplify living your fullest truth and helping others to do so. In these acts of resistance, they are paving the way for our next generation and making it safer for others. We cannot applaud them enough for that. We feel blessed to have so many wonderful partners like the Brooklyn Borough President's Office to help us create these spaces for visibility and inclusion as we celebrate gender and sexual diversity this month. In the vein of visibility, we are displaying flags tonight that represent gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender, genderqueer, intersex, and asexual pride. You may see these and some more at Pride celebrations during this coming month, as these folks follow in the footsteps of the people we honor tonight, embracing their fullest truths to inspire the generations beyond them. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to turn it back over to my co-chair, Mickey Heller.
Before we continue, I'd like to ask everyone for a moment of silence. Those of you who've been around for a while know we've lost a lot of dear loved ones in the past, whether it be to AIDS, to violence, and we'd like to just take a moment of silence just to recognize and remember all those who went on and fought this fight before us. We appreciate all those who fought the fight before us and all of you here who continue to fight that fight. We have some special guests we'd just like to acknowledge tonight because of the wonderful celebration that we've had here for many years at Borough Hall. These people continue to show up and continue to show their support. We'd like to acknowledge from the Mayor's office, Matthew McMorrow is here. From the Office of the Public Advocate, or as I refer her, Tish James, Gabriel Lewinson is here. One of our Grand Marshals from a few years ago and the first openly transgender member of the fire department, Brooke Guinan is here. Brooke. As well as family and friends from the NYPD who are here. Two of our Grand Marshals this year are here with us tonight, and I'd like to acknowledge Lyosha Gorshkov, and Norma Jennings and her wife Juliette Howard. Somebody very special to all of us, both at Brooklyn Pride and Borough Hall, the founder of Brooklyn Pride, Jerry Allred, is here tonight. From an organization that Jerry helped to found from the Brooklyn Community Pride Center, Floyd Rumer is here, the executive director. One of our sponsors here tonight from Metro Plus, Ron Law, is here. If I missed anyone, I apologize, and I'm sure I will get a note on it, and we'll introduce you later on. I get very emotional when I introduce this man because he has been there for Brooklyn Pride for many years. Before he became borough president, he was also my New York State senator and also a good friend. Some people know just by first name words, you have Madonna, you have Cher. Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Eric.
If I can, I want to just take a step back for a moment and ask, my good friend, the first openly gay Mexican-American elected to office in the city, to say a few words, my good friend Carlos Machaca. Carlos.
Muchas gracias, hermano mío. Borough President Eric Adams is definitely a brother, and like a good brother, fights for us all in this borough. And it's so beautiful to see all of you here today, and your beautiful, glorious faces. Some old friends, some friends that are going to become friends in the future, but all of us are here to celebrate Pride. And it was so beautiful to watch. Was it Renee? Renee Martin walk with such pride to hold that beautiful flag that is representative of this entire country and the struggle and the fights that we have right now to hold the promise of that flag. And next to those flags are these beautiful representations and expressions of who we are as people. And how beautiful is that we can do that here in a public municipal space like a Borough Hall with the leadership of Eric Adams, our borough president, and I representing the only now, but I'm hoping not the last, and that there will be a sea of new faces that can join government and represent those voices in budget meetings, in legislative debates, and in policies that can help our communities grow and have less fear so that we can be who we are everywhere. And I think about the young people that I meet in my own district in Sunset Park High School, for example, that are creating clubs, the new version of the GSA, that are focusing on things like gender fluidity in a school and creating policy right now. And that is so beautiful to know that that is our journey as a people, that we can all do that together. And all the honorees today are examples of that. from our speaker, Corey Johnson. Can we just give him a round of applause for being our incredible leader at the City Council, but also a dear and amazing friend of mine that I know we're going to continue to fight, not just for our LGBTQ plus community, but our immigrants and our neighborhoods, and thinking about fair fares, which is something that we are pushing right now to ensure that everyone can everyone who needs it has a half-price Metro card to get to work, to get to school. These are things that we all need in our communities. Charles Blow and Abby Stein and the Immigration Equality, let's give them all rounds of applause really quick for the incredible work they're doing every day to hold the promise of New York alive and well in their organizations, in their own hearts and minds. And so finally, I can't leave this podium and this mic without really lifting the name of someone who we've been thinking about a lot in the last week, and that's Roxana Hernandez, who died at the hands of ICE. This is an organization that continues to show the ugly side of humanity, led by a president that has no concern for everyone, that has no concern for our hearts and minds. And she was a trans Latina who was in custody and died really at the hands of ICE, that have removed their sense of spirit for working as an American agency, that flag that we all just were reminded of our own commitment, and how we need to unite. Because this isn't just an immigration issue. This isn't just an equality for LGBTQ plus people. This is about all of us. And when we are all united, some beautiful things are going to happen. And that's why I'm here and celebrating with all of you. Happy Pride.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and for what you continue to do. And really, we cannot say enough for Mickey and Jamie and the entire Pride crew, and Jerry, and just how Brooklyn lights up. We look forward to the parade. There's so much energy, right place, right time, and Brooklyn is really leading the way and sending a very strong signal of how Pride is alive and well. And I think of some of the journeys during my time in Albany, and some of the backroom wheeling and dealing and conversation of just really moving this conversation forward, being on the phone with Mickey and others, and the bill may come to the floor, it's coming to the floor, it's not, and just going back and forth. That energy was amazing. I remember running and sitting down with some of the advocates and said, listen, I'm not leaving Albany until this bill is passed, and I'm going to give it my all. And that was really a great moment in my life, that friends that I have known for years that loved each other were now able to marry. And I remember on the floor debating and saying to the state senators, trying to tell them the importance of love. I said, just remember how you feel about your wives. And I looked at some of them and I said, you know what, never mind, don't think of that. I say in reflection, how you used to feel, But the moment is right. I go back to the time I was running for office, and I tell this story because it's so apropos to today. And I was heading down to see Mom in Queens, and there was a car on the side of the road that broke down. And it must have been the police and me. I pulled over to the side. There was a woman in the back seat with her child, and her husband was under the roof of the car. And they had a look of cold and fear on their faces, and I inquired, is everything okay? He told me his alternator went bad. He needed to get a boost, a jump to move over to the service station on Farmers Boulevard and Guy Brewer Boulevard. And I pulled up next to him, and we tried to hook up the cables, but we did not have a flashlight. And so he pulled out a book of matches. And he lit the first match, the wind blew it out. The second, the third, the wind blew it out. And I recalled when my dad used to smoke, he would cuff the flame and allow the match to not be blown out by the wind, and I did that. And we connected the positive and negative cables, and it took around about 13 matches to finally connect, and get his car started, and he drove off. And I sat there looking at that book of matches. And it's indicative of today's time. Each flame carried out its function and its job. It was not meant to burn forever. It was meant to burn for a predetermined period of time. It may have been just burning long enough to put on the positive cable or the negative cable, but it did what it was supposed to do. And those flames that prematurely blew out because of the winds of adversity are those who are in our lives that are committing suicide or run away or about to extinguish their flames. If we do not cuff them and hug them and prevent the winds of adversity from blowing out their flames prematurely, we will lose them in the role that they play. And what was also fascinating that in that book, there were matches in that book that no matter how much we struck it, it wouldn't light. There are people who are mere insignificant pieces of paper with red tips on them. They're never going to light. We just have to ignore them and keep the journey in the focus. One match at a time until the task was complete. One match is going to push marriage equality. One match is going to push gender. One match is going to allow us to put an X on our birth certificates so we can identify who we are. A match is going to push gender-neutral bathrooms. A match is going to push to have our first openly gay president of the United States. Each match accumulated together is going to carry out the job. We're all part of that book. All part of that book. Don't waste your flame. You know, you can be a flame, but don't waste your flame. Make sure that you use your match and your light in the right manner to continue the goal that we are attempting to accomplish and what we're attempting to do in this day and this time. And that's what I want to do in my time. I want to be able to look back and say that I contributed in a real way to something that was important and dear to me. I lost a good friend who committed suicide because his family discarded him because of his lifestyle and his attempt to sit down and talk to his family members about his lifestyle. And it was just so heartbreaking to watch his mother and his brothers and everyone just discard him. And he took his life. And that was very impactful to me. It hurt a lot. And I think about him often on how great he was as a person and as an individual. And he just wanted to be who he was. And I am dedicating my life never to have another person take his or her life because he was misunderstood. I come from the spirit and energy of Harvey Milk as he continued his fight so many years ago, and we will continue our fight here. And so these great honorees of Abby Stein, who you cannot say enough about, to do what she has done in a community that is as closed as you can be, but moving forward. Charles Blow and Immigration Equality. All of these organizations and entities. It's another match in the book. Lighting, using their light in the right manner to accomplish what they're supposed to do during their particular period of time. And so I thank you, I thank Pride for making us a proud borough, the third largest city in America. The way goes Brooklyn, goes New York. The way goes New York, goes America. The way goes America, goes the globe. When you're proud here, the country becomes proud. And we continue to move in the right direction. Love you, appreciate you, and I thank you.
As we continue, since Eric mentioned it, I want to dispel any rumors that I'm going to toss my hat into the presidential primary to be the first openly gay president. Could be worse. Let me also say something that's so special about the borough of Brooklyn. The borough of Brooklyn is the first borough to proudly fly the LGBT Pride flag above Borough Hall. There is something so special when you're a product of the 50s and 60s and you remember how the struggle was just to walk proudly, and you could walk by Borough Hall now and see that pride flag flying, it makes you stand up that much straighter. No pun intended. It makes you proud to know that you are accepted, you are loved, and you are part of this family. So I want to again thank the Borough President for flying that flag up there proudly. We're going to start the ceremonies. Let me bring back my co-host, Jamie.
Do we have the... Well, I have the great honor of presenting the citation to Abby Stein. You're gonna, yeah, all right, excellent. Okay. Abby Stein is a Jewish educator, speaker, and writer. After completing a rabbinical degree, she left the Hasidic world and in 2015 came out as a woman of trans experience. She has been working to raise awareness and support for trans rights and those leaving ultra-Orthodoxy. We thank her tonight for this important work.
Jamie?
Yes.
Would you like to say a few words?
I was planning to talk for 2 minutes, then Eugene was like, no, you have a bit of your story. So unfortunately, I'm forced to give my 160th speech or something and talk more. When I was growing up, we had an interesting name for Brooklyn. We used to call it the Jerusalem of America. In an interesting way, and Jerusalem was referring more to a metaphorical space rather than a physical space. And in the community that I grew up, they saw Brooklyn as the ultimate best place, so to speak, where they were able to recreate their understanding of what religious utopia should look like. Brooklyn does have the biggest Orthodox Jewish community in the world, probably even bigger than any individual city even in Israel. And they have succeeded to some extent to recreate something. I don't know how many of you have visited Williamsburg Borough Park. I know the Borough President has done that. You see, it feels as if you're living in the 18th century or in, I don't know, some form of biblical times, whatever that is. However, to me, I had a different form of utopia. I was thinking of a utopia of a place where I can actually live my life. I mentioned one thing when I was 4 years old. I mentioned one thing about my feelings in passing to my parents. And I got a very clear message that never, ever even dream of talking about that. The community I was raised in wasn't even remotely close for me to anything close to a utopia. Coming back to Brooklyn, being in Borough Hall, being in Brooklyn, and being told that who you are is not a problem, and not just that it's okay, it's something that we want to celebrate, it's something that we want to march for, it's something that we want to be proud of. It's coming full circle and so much more of it. I am extremely grateful. I have been following, I know I've worked with TransPAC, which you might have heard, which has been pushing gender a lot. For those who don't know, gender is an equality bill that has passed 10 times, I believe, in the New York State Assembly, and has so far not been brought up even, I believe, in the New York State Senate. And I know the Borough President has been, to some extent, involved in that. During the last election, I've worked with an organization called TransPAC, where we were trying to push that. Unfortunately, we didn't get it in 2016. We got to push forward, hopefully, in 2018. I can't thank enough an organization called Footsteps, which is a nonprofit based in Manhattan, but most of its constituents are people living in Brooklyn, which are members growing up in the ultra-Orthodox community in Brooklyn. Our executive director says that people leaving the ultra-Orthodox community are immigrants in our own country. And we are, for all intents and purposes. There's thousands of us who don't speak English. There are thousands of us who have no education, no ability to have any choices in life. Forget about LGBTQ, but nothing. And that organization, who currently has about 1,500 members, has managed to do amazing work to change that. I am extremely grateful for that. I wouldn't be where I am today without them. I want to give a shout out to one specific person who's actually here today and goes, you can all look her up, goes by something called Flatbush Girl. And she has done work. Flatbush, for those who don't know, is a neighborhood in Brooklyn. And there's only so much that I can do from the outside, so to speak. I'm on the outside of that community. And she has done a lot in that community to raise awareness and support for LGBTQ people. And for those who wonder why this is a big deal, we're talking about thousands, a big percentage, I don't know the exact number, of Brooklyn residents who don't have any of these choices. All of these people, all of these organizations are doing work that words cannot describe it. The work that we are doing tonight, the work the Borough President has been doing, the work that the speaker has been doing, and everyone has been doing is sending a message to these people who are living in Brooklyn but feel like they are not. They don't have the privileges and freedoms that most people in New York City have. And the message that we are sending tonight is, I don't have words because I really can't say how important this is. So thank you all so much. And thank you again to the Borough President, to Brooklyn Pride, and to everyone else who made this possible.
What was that, Flatbush Simple Girl? I knew that handle was taken. I tried for it myself, and it was already... haha, such a deal. Our next honoree, Charles Blow, is a New York Times columnist with a column that appears on Mondays and Thursdays. Before joining the Times, Charles had been a graphic artist at the Detroit News. He is the author of Fire Shut Up in My Bones, released in September 2014. A magna cum laude graduate from Grambling State University in Louisiana, Charles lives in Park Slope and has 3 children. Please give a round of applause to Charles Blow.
Thank you so much. Humbled, also mortified, because I had no idea we were supposed to give a speech. In 2009, 2 little boys, both of them 11 years old, they didn't know each other. One was in Boston, one was in Atlanta. And within 7 days, I think, of each other, they both hanged themselves. They had both been exposed to homophobic bullying at school, did not know how to deal with it, and rather than tough it out, they took their own lives. And in that moment, I had been writing something. I don't know what it was going to be, but I knew that I was in writing a book, and that it was about me as a kid, and about how hard it is for children in particular to reconcile what it feels like to be on the outside looking in, and that some of them, in their darkest moments, choose the worst option and take their own lives, and how you can walk up to that precipice and walk back from it and realize that you are valuable, and that you are a person, and you are alive. And in that, there is hope, and there's possibility in that. And so 5 years later, I published that book. And it was about them, and it was for them, but it was also about people like me who never felt like they found a spot in the queer community because I was bisexual, and didn't even know how to describe what that meant. And because the way people defined it didn't work for me. You know, I wasn't at the 50-yard line doing mad dashes back and forth because I was greedy. To the contrary, it was about falling for people as beings before bodies. And if I fell for someone and I love that person, I could figure the rest of it out. And to me, that always felt like a higher level of being, because I wasn't crossing off half the population. And I wanted to make that visible, and because I didn't have the literature. I'm a writer. I didn't have enough books that were showing me what I look like, and that I was part of this group, and that I belonged in this community. And so I just wanted to say that. I wanted to say thank you, and a lot of people like me don't start off with pride. And I think we have to tell people that that's okay. And when I talk to people about this, I say, if you don't start with pride, you don't have to start there. Start with honor. Start with the fact that truth and courage are the only way to get to honor. Start with the idea that you cannot be a whole person until you are an honest person. Be honest with yourself. You'll find your way to pride. Thank you very much.
Our next honoree, Immigration Equality, is the leading immigrant rights organization in the country. Since 1994, they have been proud to advocate for LGBTQ and HIV-positive immigrants, many of whom have settled here in Brooklyn. It's for that work that we thank them tonight.
I mean, that was a pretty good speech for someone who hadn't planned a speech. Thank you for this honor. You know, I will be honest that at a time when the federal government really seems to be coming for us, for the queer community, for the immigration community, and for that nexus, that beautiful nexus that immigration equality gets to represent, it can be really rough. It seems like every day is some new horrible thing that we have to fight against, that we have to scream against, that we have to resource up to fight back against. And I just want to share with you that it is so beautiful and refreshing to live in New York City, to be in a city where the beautiful thing that we are trying to protect every day that's being attacked by the government, it's celebrated. And in this month of Pride, when we think about what that celebration is for and what it means, it really is a message to the whole world that it is a fundamental human right to be out. It is a fundamental human right that this government should always protect. And if the federal government will not, it is up to the state and the city government to do that for our people. It's going to be ugly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for a little while, but not in Brooklyn, right? Not in New York City and not in New York State. But the movement towards creating sanctuary cities starts at home. The organizing to fight back against rhetoric, against an administration that calls immigrants animals, right? This just happened 2 weeks ago. Our president called immigrants animals. And the White House did a whole lot of PR about what he really meant to say. But the man says what he means. And people react to that in a really ugly way. And so it will always be the mission of immigration equality to act as a shield to the people who need our help, to ensure that they have a fair fighting chance. Councilmember Menchaca mentioned a very important national case for a woman who died in ICE custody. She came to the US as a part of a caravan of 17 different queer people who had come together to fight their way to America. And when they got to our shores, we put them in detention. I'm proud to say that my colleague Hector Ruiz is here. On Tuesday, we fought for one of those people, and on Tuesday evening at 5:30, he was granted asylum in the United States. On Wednesday, he was released from detention, and yesterday, Hector went with him to get some ID documents. I wish we could have been there for all of those people. The truth is, it's hard for us, but for those beautiful people we can catch, that we can help, we have a 99% rate of success. And some of that is because we work with the most talented lawyers in America, and some of it is also just a testament to how many places it is fundamentally unsafe to be an out queer person. So our job is to be that bridge, right, before that desperate, vulnerable person who is at the border that's being mistreated by the government to a pathway to citizenship. And one of the most beautiful things we get to do is to go into swearing ceremonies of new citizens. And my first question for them is always, did you register to vote? And they have always said yes to that question. They are motivated. They are some of the most resilient people I've ever met. It is a pleasure to serve them, and it is really beautiful to be honored for that good work. Thank you.
As we all know, in government and not-for-profits, we are so thankful for sponsors that come along and help us. And tonight we'd like to give Mr. Ron Law from Metro Plus a few moments to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to give my thanks to Borough President Adams for taking this upon himself and being a sponsor of this event. Also want to thank Brooklyn Pride for also sponsoring this event. I also like to acknowledge the honorees for the work in which they've done. And I want to leave you with just two thoughts, because I want to be brief, because I know that you're not here to hear me, you're more here to hear everybody else and also to get to the festivities, which are downstairs, so I don't want to stand in your way. But the first thought I want to leave you with, and I will have to admit it is a commercial thought. When you're looking for health care, think about a plan that will help you get PEP or PrEP without pre-authorization. That will provide you with case managers, which will arrange for you to have doctor's appointments with multiple doctors on the same day. And also think of a plan that will not only cover HIV and AIDS individuals, but will also cover transgender. And if you're thinking about, and if you want a name to go with that thought, it's Metro Plus. Here's my second thought, to which I want you to take home with you. Never forget how far you have come, everything you've gone through, all the times you have pushed, or even when you felt you could not go on, all the mornings you got out of bed and no matter how hard it was, all the times you wanted to give up, but you got through another day. Never forget how much you have learned and the strength you have developed. Know that you are not alone. Walk away with your head held high and a smile on your face. Congratulations and Gay Pride.
Our speaker, Corey Johnson, will be here momentarily, but since we're doing some commercial announcements, I would like to take a moment to bring my co-chair up and talk a little bit about Brooklyn Pride. Since we were going to keep it at the end, we'll do it now. First of all, we want to thank the Borough President for being here with us, but we also We have, yes, he has to go. We have some incredible events coming up this week, and they're all listed in your Pride Guide, but we want to share them to you because someone like me who loves ice cream, I know you are too. So Wednesday evening in Gowanus at Ample Hills on Union Street near Nevins, we're having what's called Pints and Postcards. It's basically our ice cream social where they're giving out free ice cream sundaes. Yes, and they're all calorie free. So just teasing. A man's got a dream, can't he? But one of the wonderful things you'll see in the last page in the Pride Guide is they have chosen a flavor of the month at Ample Hills called Baby I Was Churned This Way. And for every pint of Baby I Was Churned This Way purchased at any Ample Hills in New York for the month of June, they will donate $1 to Brooklyn Pride. So I can guarantee you my waistline is going to grow. Talk about Thursday?
Just to latch on to what Mickey was saying, Brooklyn Pride fundraises throughout the year so that all of the events that we host are free and accessible to as many people in the LGBTQIA+ community as possible. We never want money to be a barrier, and so we thank Apple Hills very much for their donation that we can keep making this programming possible. And if you get your fill of ice cream on Wednesday and you want to join us to laugh off your calories, we have an amazing queer comedy night at Club Ecstasy in Sunset Park on 5th Avenue and 26th Street or 25th Street. And Lois Thompson, if you know her, puts together an amazing lineup. This will be our 3rd year hosting this event, and we've had to get a bigger and bigger space every time because it's been standing room only. So we think Club Ecstasy is big. It can hold over 100. We think we'll be able to get everybody in there, but we hope that some of you will join us on that evening as well. And then on Friday, we have, also Thursday, those of you who are running in the 5K run, for the 5th year in a row, our 5K run is sold out. That is the only event that we actually have a fee for, but it is sold out for the 5th year running. That was a joke. God. But the packet pickup for the bib and the shirt and the goodie bag, if you come to packet pickup, will be Thursday from 4 to 8 at AIDS Healthcare Foundation out of the closet on Atlantic Avenue. So if you're running, or if you know someone who is, please come down and pick up your packet in advance. Then on Friday, we have a veritable plethora of events. In addition to the packet pickup from 4 to 9, right across the street, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, our rainbow sponsor, is offering a free party from 7 to 10 at Hollow Nickel, right across from Out of the Closet on Atlantic Avenue. Please come by and get some drink on and some food on and some dance on. It's going to be a fun night. We're also having screening of Black Panther on the field behind the old stone house in Park Slope. They put a big sheet up on the fence, and you bring your lawn chairs, you bring your blankets, your towels, and whatever else, and there'll be a screening of the film, and they'll be bringing in, Jesse Hamilton's office is working to bring in some entertainment as well, I think to coincide with Caribbean Heritage Month, is that correct? Yeah. And then we begin our day on Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, we have our 5K run, which is at Prospect Park. You enter at 15th Street at Bartell Pritchard Circle or Prospect Park West. Again, I said the run is sold out, but they really could use encouragement. If you are up that early in the morning, stop by the run and cheer on the people. They look great in their little shorts and their shirts, so it's also wonderful eye candy. They told me to stretch, so I'm doing the best I can. And that starts at 10 a.m. is the run, and after the run,
please come on down to 5th Avenue in Park Slope. Between 1st Street and 9th Street, we'll be hosting our multicultural festival, 2 stages of entertainment, and our family fun zone. What I will say about our festival is that although you will find these sausage sheets and socks that you find at every other street festival in New York City, we really have a focus on bringing in our nonprofit and community partners. So our fare is pretty well balanced with those folks. We make it really accessible to them. So we want to make sure that our community is connecting with the folks that provide services and advocacy year-round, because we're only here mostly for a week a year, and we want to make sure we have those opportunities for connections. Our 2 fabulous stages of entertainment are going to be posted on our website and are currently on our Facebook, the schedules, but they're wonderful. Someone you'll see shortly this evening will be there, so if you like what she does, come see her on Fifth Avenue. And then our family fun zone will be within J.J. Byrne Park in front of the old stone house, and we have Drag Queen Story Hour coming to read to the kids. We'll have a bubble performance, puppetry arts will be there, there'll be painting, and Camp Highlight, which serves the kids of LGBTQ parents, will be there hosting carnival games, and it's just going to be a lovely day for everyone. And then after all that shuts down, I'll turn it back over to Mickey.
But before that shuts down, I'm going to give a shameless plug to one of our sponsors who will be there at the festival, Metro Plus. I'm trying to plug them to put a float in the parade next year. You know, it's funny, when you get to be a certain age, you don't care what you say because everyone thinks you're an old cantankerous coot, so you could just go ahead and say it. So I do. Yeah. At 7:30 sharp, and I'm proud to say, we start our parade on time. We've been to other boroughs that are anywhere from 30 to 45 to an hour late, and they tell you to be there at noon, and they don't go till 12:30, 1 o'clock. For at least the last 5 years, we have started at 7:30 sharp at the corner of Lincoln Place and Fifth Avenue. We start at 7:30, but we have a pre-Pride parade. We have our moment of silence. Some of our wonderful politicians will say a few words. We'll introduce some people. But at 7:25, we have Cheer New York, who starts the parade with a cheer to get us all revved up. And also our motorcycle group, the Sirens, will be revving up their motors because at 7:30 sharp, we go gaily forward along Fifth Avenue. We never go straight. We go gaily forward along Fifth Avenue.
You got a ball tonight, Ricky. Will you be performing?
I'll be performing on the comedy. Along Fifth Avenue from Lincoln Place to 9th Street. It really is a wonderful time, and I want to take a quick moment. 2 of our grand marshals, Lyosha Goskov, who is from Rusa LGBT, is here tonight. We had the privilege of marching in their parade last week. And Norma Jennings and Juliet Howard, how long have you been together? 24 years together, and married how long? Married to, well, you can only marry her. 24 years together, and they have 2 incredible sons. One just got accepted to Stuyvesant High School, and the other goes to Mudd College. Harvey Mudd out in California, and is a scholar honor student there. So they're doing some good work. Now, we'll go on with our program. I've had the pleasure of knowing this man for a number of years. We've bumped into each other at the Queen's Pride Parade at different functions. Carlos Menchaca said some most incredible things for him, but I'm going to read this citation. Corey Johnson is our new Speaker of the City Council, and it is something very special when you have an openly gay man as City Council President. He's not the first LGBTQ, that was Christine Quinn, but it is a privilege to have him as our City Council President. And the Borough President's citation says, whereas on behalf of all Brooklynites, I salute Corey Johnson, Council Speaker of the New York City Council and a City Council member of the 3rd District, which includes the committees of Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea, the West Village, and parts of Flatiron, Soho, and the Upper West Side in Manhattan. I applaud him for using his national attention in 1999 when, as the captain of his school football team, he took the courageous step of coming out publicly as gay, with his actions landing him on the front page of the New York Times. As I look at Mr. Blow. Where he told his story to audiences of young people across the country, helping to catapult him into a career of advocacy and activism. I commend him for previously serving as chairperson of the Manhattan Community Board 4, becoming the youngest person to chair a community board in the 5 boroughs, and for serving as a member of the New York City Council's LGBT caucus. I acknowledge him for being a tenacious advocate for his constituents and an exceptional legislator at City Hall, passing dozens of forms forms of legislation, standing up for tenants, victims of domestic violence, transgender New Yorkers, those involved with the criminal justice system, and many other issues. And I thank him for all that he has done to touch and improve the lives of many, helping to move our communities forward as one Brooklyn. Now, therefore, I, Eric Adams, President of the Borough of Brooklyn, do hereby confer this citation on Council Speaker Corey Johnson.
Come on. You know, a great moment, and as Carlos, you know, if you follow Corey, I think he's the new energy and spirit, what we need in government. Not only those who can bear the load of the city, but who you don't mind having a beer with. You know, just a real person. Interact in a very real way. Too many people deify themselves when they get elected instead of understanding that they're not here to be served, but here to serve. Corey does not have it mixed up. He's real about serving the people of this city, and you're going to see that in a very real way, because you can't fake it. You know, New Yorkers know when you're just giving them a line, and you know, you're not really engaged with the issues that are facing. And my interaction with Corey has really shown a very authentic, real desire to make this a fair and better city to live in. And so that is why we're acknowledging him today. And we thank you. Continue to do the great things that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So good evening. I want to thank our fantastic Borough President, Eric Adams, for this. It's really an honor to be with you all here tonight. And I want to say a few things about the Borough President. Number one, you know, it's easy, of course, to have a beautiful, wonderful Pride celebration and, you know, 1 month of the year, one night of the year, stand up here and honor wonderful people for the work they've done in the community. But the real test of an ally is what they do the rest of the year. And the real test of an ally is what they have done before it was fashionable or easy to stand as a stalwart ally with the LGBT community. And Eric Adams is a person who his entire career in public service has been one, and not just standing with the LGBT community, many communities across our city, but as it relates to our community, and it's hard to remember him before he was Brooklyn Borough President, but before he was Brooklyn Borough President, he was one of the go-to people in the New York State Senate for the LGBT community, time and time again, on any issue that came up. And when there is an incidence, and there are too many, of violence against LGBT folks, predominantly trans women of color in New York City, and it's happened in Brooklyn too many times, one of the first people who shows up, advocates for the victims, interfaces with the NYPD, and calls for justice is our Borough President, Eric Adams. So I really want to thank him for his friendship and his actions for our community. I want to congratulate Immigration Equality and Abby Stein. Is Aja here? Aja's not here. And I want to fanboy a little bit, or fangirl a little bit for Charles Blow, because I have such a crush on Charles Blow's calling out right now across this country. He has been amazing. His writing is a lot more articulate than I just was in saying what he does. But I remember one of the first pieces he wrote after the president was sadly elected, and his speaking truth to power and his really, I think, prescient writing, not just during the last 16 months, but predating that, and pointing out some of these really undermining forces that had been at work for a long time. I am a really big fan of your writing, and so I'm really grateful to share the stage with you here tonight. Mickey and Jamie, I don't want to get in trouble in Manhattan, but people keep saying, what are you going to do this Pride season? What's going on? And I'm like, I love the Fifth Avenue. It's not on Fifth Avenue anymore, but I love the Fifth Avenue parade. But my favorite parade is Brooklyn Pride. Marching at sunset through Park Slope, the energy is amazing, and it is a real community event, and you feel that. And you all have done really a spectacular job building it into such a beautiful event, not just for the borough of Brooklyn, but people come from all over the city to come to Brooklyn Pride. So I'm really proud of your advocacy and hard work and organizing skills on this. And then lastly, before I give some very brief remarks, I want to talk about Carlos Menchaca. Carlos, of course, is well known in this borough and has been a history maker himself for taking on, I believe, an almost 14-year incumbent when he ran in 2013. He did it in the wake of a devastating storm that has still bedeviled our city in many ways, Hurricane Sandy, where he was on the ground organizing. He worked in this very building before he ran for office himself and before he came to the city council and worked for Speaker Quinn. But I want to just tell you this because this is the thing you don't see in the news. You don't see it because Carlos doesn't talk about it himself. I could pull up my phone right now, and I won't, and show you about 8 text messages I've got from him in the last 2 hours. And those text messages and what he says when the door is closed is the same as what he says on the steps of City Hall, and the same as what he says when he's out standing with marginalized and vulnerable communities. He is a person that is one of the consciences of the City Council. He is someone who doesn't just advocate for LGBT people, even though he's LGBT, or for the Mexican American community because he's Mexican American. When we've looked at bills in the City Council, Carlos is always asking, how is this going to potentially hurt people or help people? And that is the type of council member that he is. He is that council member for his own district in Sunset Park and the other neighborhoods that are so lucky to have him representing them, but he does it throughout the whole city. He'll find an issue somewhere, and where he sees an issue of injustice, he grabs on. He does it day in and day out. He's doing it in the budget process right now, which we're in, and I am so grateful to have been elected at the same time as him. I'm so grateful to serve with him, and I am so grateful for his friendship. So thank you, Carlos, for everything. So I don't want to speak for much longer. I had these long, prepared, written remarks. I just want to say this. I am so happy to be gay. No offense to the straight people in the house. I am very happy to be gay. I am very happy to live in New York City. I am very happy to live in Manhattan, even though Brooklyn's great. I'd live in Brooklyn, but I live in Manhattan. And I think we have made a tremendous amount of progress here in New York City. But what you see today with a Supreme Court decision, what you've seen with this new autocratic federal government rolling back the rights of transgender Americans, whether it be in the military or the education secretary wiping away rights of transgender students across the country, what you see happening to other marginalized communities, whether it be the gag rule that they're implementing on choice in this country, or the president's comments in the aftermath of Charlottesville. We are very lucky to live here, tremendously lucky to live here. But we also have a lot of work to do here. And even though we are in a far better place than many other states and cities across the country, our own test needs to be being able to look in the mirror and figure out what else do we have to do here in New York City to make our city a better place for all people, especially LGBT people. I grew up in a little tiny town 25 miles north of Boston. I came out in 1999, about 6 months after Matthew Shepard was murdered in Wyoming. I had just been elected captain of my high school football team. I didn't know any other openly gay people, and when I came out as the only openly gay student out of 1,500 kids in my school. And my story and what set me up, I really believe, for success, for believing in myself, for going on and moving to New York City and getting politically involved. What set me up was my parental affirmation and love that I was given. And in New York City, we still have too much parental rejection of young people. Even in New York City, we still have too much parental rejection. And so the world is a much, I think, better place and more equal place than it was in 1999 when I came out. But we still have hundreds of homeless, runaway LGBT youth. We still have an epidemic of violence against the transgender community, especially trans women of color. We still have blatant discrimination in housing and public accommodations and in employment. And we still have disproportionate new HIV infections, predominantly in communities of color across the city. And so in our city, in a city with a tremendous amount of wealth, in a city with a tremendous amount of resources, we still need to look at ourselves in the mirror and figure out where we can do better as a city. We do that in the city. I don't do it alone. I do it with people like Carlos Menchaca every single day in the New York City Council. And in this borough, that is what Eric Adams does every day. Those are the conversations that he has, and those are the issues that he pushes on. I hope that one day we will live in a country, in a city, and in a borough where all young people and all LGBT people are accepted and loved and affirmed and given the ability to succeed for exactly who they are. And so I know that with the work that you all do in this room to make our city a more just and equal place, we are on that road, but we still have a lot more to do. And I take it as my call to action on a daily basis to continue to fight for 19-year-old LGBT people, actually I was 16 when I came out, 16-year-old LGBT people who are coming out and want to be loved. I am the only openly HIV-positive elected official in the state of New York. And I am very lucky that I have good health insurance and resources to be able to take care of myself. But I fight for all people living with HIV and AIDS who may not have the same access to resources that I have. And when we talk about the LGBT community, we need to talk about the whole LGBT community, not just the LGBT community that looks like me, but everyone in the LGBT community. And so I look forward to continuing that fight with all of you. I am so happy that it's Pride. It's a moment of celebration. It's a moment of, baby, I was born this way. But it's also a moment of self-reflection on what the continued battles and fights ahead are to continue to make our city a great and just and equal city. So thank you all very much. Happy Pride, and thank you to Borough President Eric Adams for this distinct honor tonight.
And I forgot to acknowledge our LGBTQ coordinator, Eugene. Thank you.
Please stay in your seats. We have a special guest right after these pictures. Remain in your seats for a moment. I'm sorry, I had to make one quick remark. When Corey Johnson said he was in high school in 1999, I'd already been practicing law for 10 years. He's such a cutie. Oy, Jamie.
Before we close, I just wanted to take another quick moment to thank our sponsors this evening, Metro Plus. Thank you so much for your support. Eugene and Eileen at Borough Hall could not be more amazing to work with, and I thank you so much for the work that you do year-round for all of Brooklyn. Everyone on your team is amazing, amazing. We will be retiring shortly to some hors d'oeuvres and beverages and merriment. And so for that, we need to thank Bogota Latin Bistro in Park Slope for the delicious food that we'll have this evening. It's really good. 6 Point for the beer that they were kind enough to share with us. DJ Mary Mack for providing the soundtrack to our evening. And I would encourage you all this week, this month, and ongoing, Please don't hide your pride. It is what will inspire the next generation of honorees here at Borough Hall. So I thank you all so much for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Mickey to close us out. Thank you.
You know, I've been doing this for about 7 or 8 years now. Eileen Newman's in the back, and she was acknowledged a moment, but she wasn't here. I want to thank Eileen for all the work she's doing here at Borough Hall. I want to also remember to thank our opening, Vernay, and our singer tonight. They did a wonderful job. Please, when you leave this place, everyone here has a story. Please don't be afraid to share your story. Tell them where you came from. Tell the history. Don't let people know that there is a void. We have something to share. But before I go on further, because I could for hours and you have other things to do, Aja, many of you read that Aja was supposed to be here tonight as a special guest, and she had accepted the award, but she couldn't be here because at the last moment she got a call to go to Los Angeles and do a big show, so she's there. But we have a very special guest with us. She's been with us for many years, and she's incredible, and she has a song to sing for our honorees, because not only is she, but our honorees are simply the best. Let's welcome Ram B. Thank you, Ron B. Ladies and gentlemen, please take those Pride Guides with you. Come join us, especially on Saturday, but Brooklyn Pride Week has officially begun.